Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Jump In Podcast with me, your host, John Thomas, here in Philadelphia. Looking forward to sharing the episode with you all this week. Uh, what can I tell you? This past week has been pretty interesting for me. For those of you who haven't listened to any of the other episodes, I hope you have. But if you've been following my journey, you know that I've been uh, taking on my health and wellness and fitness to the highest level since January of this year. And it was, largely due to many years of me just neglecting this issue and just not paying attention to things that I knew I could have made a difference with. I coach people for a living. I am been a professional coach for over 15 years. And before that, I've been solving people's problems as a management and executive consultant. So it's not uncommon for me to find solutions for challenges, for problems that people are dealing with, and to be able to, give them tips and tools that are going to help make a difference in the areas that they are falling short in. So again, a little bit of, telling one on myself is to know that the one area that I kind of like neglected was my health and wellness. And, you know, that, caused a few issues. There was weight gain, there was, you know, being a little bit lax and, feeling tired all the time. I was, uh, those of you who don't know, I've been, a sugar addict since I was a kid, and I just had to have Kool-Aid at every meal or some sugary drink was a part of my day every day, even as an adult now. So, um, taking this on was a big deal. And it was something that I knew I needed to do, not just for myself, but for the reason I get up every day and the reasons that I, work as hard as I do is, so that my children can have a great father and, for me to be around for all the important highlights of their lives and their future as long as I can. Now, mind you, we know that anything can happen at any time, whether you're healthy or not healthy. But, if it was something that was in my control, which, again, taking care of your health and wellness is something that you can have some say in. Why would I want to continue to neglect it? As I'm getting older, I want to be there and I want to be healthy. So, what has occurred since January of, like the second, when I started this podcast was the first week in January. And I was weighing 243 pounds at the time. My cholesterol was off the charts and my blood sugar was over 400. And A1C was at 16, which is, for those of you who know, that's high. That's levels that, diabetic. And, again, either I was going to, begin to experience some of the challenges that people with those levels of sugar and glucose would start to deal with, or I could do something about it while I could still do something about it. And, again, one of the things that I didn't want to have to be dealing with is, at some point, having to make a decision about whether I was going to be able to walk or, go to, dialysis or any of those things that people who deal with those blood sugar levels have to deal with. I never wanted that for myself. I didn't want it for anybody in my family, but my family does have a history of diabetes. And so again, for me to neglect it and not take it serious would have been disastrous over time. So I took it on in January, and in a short period of time, those 3 months, I gave up, refined sugar. I gave up, fried foods. I gave up a lot of the things that I enjoy. Most importantly, I gave up, sugary drinks and, getting rid of high fructose corn sugar and all those other additives that come with it. And, the results have been amazing. I've now got my glucose in the management level. It's in the, it fluctuates between 120 and 179 if I've eaten a meal. And so again, those are ranges that are manageable, and they, been able to do it without having to rely on insulin or any of those things that they try to prescribe for you medically. And mostly, shifting the diet has been a great thing for me. It's given me a lot of power and freedom. I'm making most of my meals at home now, which I wasn't doing. You could find me at a great restaurant. I'm in Philadelphia. I live, surrounded by food. Everywhere you go, there's another 3 or 5 star restaurant opening up. So, I indulged in a lot of those things, and, over time it had an impact. So, but what am I doing now? I'm eating healthier options. I'm giving myself opportunities to work out, which I didn't do for several years. I used to be a nut, but now, I've given myself permission to, scale back up. And I'm looking into other options around, putting other physical activities that I've neglected in years, like, I'm walking more, get back to running, get back to doing hot yoga, which is something I was introduced to in my years in San Francisco. So again, those are the things that I've been doing, and the results have been that, I've taken off over 15 pounds of weight. Sugar is no longer held me hostage. I can now taste, a lot of the foods that I, probably didn't really enjoy as much before, eating vegetables and things like that. I ate pretty healthy for myself, but I know, snacking, all that had to be cut down and eliminated. Now I do still give myself permission to have chips now and then, but it's the 100-calorie bags, and again, I'm limiting the amount of salt intake as well. So all good things for people who say they want to be around for the people that they care about, and I do definitely want to make sure I'm around for as long as I can, doing what I do to make a difference in the lives of others and to make a difference for myself. So, I call myself a leader. I know that I've been chosen for leadership in many different ways. I'm a leader in my family. So again, I need to make my example be something that I can be proud to stand on, and also others would be inspired by as well. So that's my goal. That was the intention, and I'm still on that journey. So stay tuned. I'll continue to share updates as we go. But for now, I wanted this week's topic to be something that I find near and dear is, again, being a leader, and not just any leader, but a really good leader. And, so what makes someone a good leader? I can tell you that this is definitely a topic that, we could spend a lifetime debating and discussing amongst each other, and we still not come to a conclusion or any consensus. So in this episode of the Jump In Podcast, I'm going to share my view on what makes a good leader, and then give you the 14 of the top leadership development training topics that I use for teams in the work that I do with companies and organizations. Now, in my experience, a good leader possesses a combination of qualities, including integrity, vision, communication skills, as I've shared in other episodes, is very important, adaptability, empathy, and a commitment to continuous learning. All in while still fostering a positive and collaborative environment. Now, to break this down in more detail, let's look at what the core qualities that I think that good leaders possess. And these aren't, in numerical order, but they're just things that I know good or great leaders possess. And the first thing I'll mention is integrity and ethics. Now, if you're a good leader acts with honesty and transparency. They're upholding strong ethical standards and building trust. They also have vision and strategic thinking. People that can articulate a clear vision for the future and develop strategies to achieve it, encouraging what I call strategic thinking and innovation. They also have the communication skills. Communication skills are absolutely essential. Effective leaders communicate clearly and concisely, actively listening to others, and they foster open dialogue. Empathy and emotional intelligence is also present. They understand and acknowledge the emotions of others, building strong relationships and fostering a supportive environment. Good leaders have adaptability and resilience, and they can navigate change and challenges effectively, always remaining calm and resourceful in the face of any adversity. They have self-awareness and personal development is key. They're aware, of whatever strengths and weaknesses that they have. And they're always continuously seeking opportunities for growth and development. Some of the leadership behaviors that you would want to have as a good leader would have you be inspiring and motivating. Good leaders, they create a sense of purpose and inspire the teams to achieve the best. They also have the ability to delegate and empower people. They trust their team members and they empower them to take ownership and make decisions or choices that they need to make. They also show collaboration and teamwork. Good leaders foster a collaborative environment where everyone feels valued and can contribute to their best ability. And when it comes to accountability and responsibility, they take ownership of their actions and decisions, holding themselves and their team accountable for any results that they have. There's also learning and growth. That's an important part. And good leaders are committed to continuous learning and development, both for themselves and for their teams. They focus on others. They prioritize the needs and well-being of their team members, creating a positive and supportive work environment. Now, you may be thinking, John, I know I'm in possession of some of these skills, but, what if not, if I don't know if I have all of these core qualities. So how do you grow your skills in those areas where you're weaker in your leadership? So let's talk about it. And, let's jump in because this is the topic for this week. And as I give you all the 14 of the top leadership development training topics that I think that teams can use and benefit. Team training does more than just build skills. It teaches your team members to work together and makes whatever employees or clients you have more engaged, and it builds empathy in the diverse and changing workplaces. Now, here are some of the most popular topics for leadership development team training. Along with, I'm going to give you some tools to help you build your team skills in each of these areas without needing to spend thousands of dollars on an outside speaker or consultant. Now, that's not to say that those people aren't important and they're not necessary, because I'm one of them. But I tell you, if you can gain these skills, by, learning on your own, it'll save you thousands. Because again, time, for a consultant and a speaker is not cheap. So one of the first skills you're going to need to develop is emotional intelligence. Now, according to Daniel Goleman, I've shared about his research before in other episodes. Emotional intelligence, or EI, right, makes great leaders stand out. And he explains that EI has 5 parts to it, which, again, self-awareness, self-control, motivation, empathy, and social skills. And Goleman believed that the best way to teach these elements of EI was by using motivation, plenty of practice, and feedback. So here we are. All these things will help leaders change old habits and learn new ones. The second thing is conflict and dealing with difficult people. Most managers or leaders would prefer to avoid conflict among their team members. I mean, who wants to be in challenging positions, right? However, research has shown that when colleagues disagree, they often push one another to come up with better and more innovative solutions. Now, the key is to disagree respectfully and to keep the focus on the ideas at hand and to stay away from personal critiques. So Learning how to deal with conflict effectively will help you, in some cases, come away with the solutions that you need as a leader. The third is collaboration. Now, there was a Gartner study that showed that 78% of leaders experience collaboration drag. Now, what is collaboration drag? That's, being in rooms with too many meetings, too much peer feedback, unclear decision-making authority. All that adds to collaboration drag. Now, however, too little collaboration often impedes your innovation. So it's important to strike the right balance. And so to do this, I recommend that, leaders understand and prioritize the interactions that drive the most value for their organizations. The fourth thing you want to deal with is strategic thinking. And strategic thinking doesn't necessarily require large amounts of time. It's not about taking endless sabbaticals or going on leadership retreats. Rather, leaders should recognize the obstacles to strategic thinking, like company cultures that value busyness and long hours. By becoming more aware of how they are spending their time, leaders can learn to prioritize strategic thinking. The fifth thing is adapting your leadership style. So there's a difference between a leader's personality and their style. Personality is fixed. Style can change based on the situation. And unlike personality, you can learn to adapt your leadership style. And the best leaders have a style that balances power and warmth, and they know how much of each to use in different situations. And if you want to understand more about the leadership styles, go back and check out the episode that I did on leadership and the different styles. And you'll learn ways that you can become a better leader in that area. The sixth, critical thinking. Now, the ability to think critically advances through each stage. Now, it starts with execution, where maybe you and your team members will complete assigned tasks. And it ends with generation, where they create new solutions from scratch. Now, to help your team progress in their critical abilities, you want to model how to think critically and encourage them to share ideals often. So, positive model, positive response. So you want to create the model for how your team begins to think critically and encourage them, again, to share their ideals often. Now, when it comes to, being a great leader, being an organized organization that has leadership involved, and organizational leadership is critical. So the seventh thing you want to deal with is innovation. Now, as a long-time management consultant, I've been consulting since 1998, and I've been a coach, like I said, for over 15 years now. And I suggest to my clients two main focus areas for teaching their teams to innovate. And the first is to identify and encourage the behaviors that promote innovation. And the second is to remove barriers that block innovation. The goal is to create a culture where innovation thrives, not just teaching new brainstorming methods. And the eighth skill is strategic planning. And I've shared before, most people don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan, right? So it comes really as no shock, right? That there was a strategy expert named Roger Martin, who said that putting together an effective strategy comes down to leading your team and making essential choices. What are those choices? Well, two of the most important choices are deciding where your organization will play and how it will win. Now, choosing where to play means prioritizing some markets and electing not to serve some others. Deciding how you'll win means competing on a different dimension than your competitors, on quality versus cost, for example. Number 9 is change management. Now, many organizations, they assume that their changing efforts fail because of lack of time, training, or financial incentives. But the root cause is often goes way deeper than that. So it's my belief that organizations should step back and look at teams' overall behavior patterns. Now, this helps to find what's really blocking a change initiative. Involving outsiders with a fresh perspective is a very effective way to do this, and it's one of the reasons why people hire me as their coach or to bring me in to consult with them, is because I'm going to give them the greatest opportunity to see what they see from an outside perspective and not attached to any one position or the other. So once you can find the real blockers to innovation, you can then address them. Number 10 is giving feedback. And, managers or leaders are often fear giving difficult feedback because they worry about hurting feelings. Now, while we can't control what other people's reactions are to our feedback, what managers can do is make their part of the conversation helpful and productive by showing positive intentions, discussing the employee's strengths, and creating an actionable plan with support. It's not enough just to point out things that people are not doing or they didn't have or they should have done, unless you can come up with ways to present it in a way that they can hear it and give them what worked first. Give them the positive. Give them the opportunity to see that not only do you have, some skin in the game, but you're also working on plans that will support them as they go through what they need to go through in order to grow in this area of planning. Number 11 is you want to manage remote and hybrid work. Now, hybrid work, as you know, is common for today's team, but it's not without its challenges. And so these will often include difficulties with communication, coordination, connection, and creativity, as well as culture. Now, if problems arise in these areas that involve your team, you want to involve your team in helping to solve those problems. So this is when you want to start to brainstorm solutions together to get everybody's buy-in. Make sure you include fully remote team members so they don't feel left out. And again, tools like Zoom, FaceTime, all these things are now available for people to bring the connections together of people who are distant from you. The 12th area is big area for me. It's the one about coaching and mentoring. Now, don't just take my word for it. According to a coaching expert named Ed Batista, he said that coaching is about connecting with people, inspiring them to do their best, and helping them to grow. It's also about challenging people to come up with the answers that they require on their own. Now, I can tell you, as surely as my hand is cinnamon raisin brown, that this is what I get up to every single day when I'm working with my clients. It's the mindset that I have when I walk in the door, or it's the mindset I have when I get on the phone. It's about them and inspiring them to do what they do best and helping them to grow. And it's about challenging them to come up with the answers that they already mostly have, but they just need some clarity or they need some direction on how to get the best results for their opportunities that they have. And like I said, one of the best ways that you can do this are to ask, what does that team member need? What do they need? And listen attentively to what they say. And then empathize with them to help them build their confidence and resilience. Now, the next area in this is leading the future of work. And what's leading in our culture now? AI. It's a big conversation. So again, to be a great leader, you want to start to know and understand that if you're going to lead the future of work or workplaces, you need to know that generative AI is the area that's going to be your newest focus. And according to an Accenture research, most business functions and more than 40% of U.S. work activity can be augmented, automated, or reinvented with generational AI. So the best way to train your team to work with generative AI is by focusing on fusion skills. And what are those? Which means you combine human and machine abilities together. Now, one of these skills is effective prompting, which includes using data and organizational knowledge in prompts to help the AI learn. So again, another skill is knowing when to use human judgment to make AI responses more trustworthy. We're not at the point where AI, we think pretty much like they've gotten a lot better since the beginning of this conversation. And so a lot of people rely on AI, companies rely on this for their bread and butter, and they're finding new ways to incorporate it in their structure. But if you really want to be a great leader and you want to use generative AI as a tool, you want to help to build that trustworthiness by bringing the two elements together, the human element as well as the technology that you're using. Number 14, and again, this I left for last because this is probably the one that's been pretty much under the gun, and it's, being dismantled as we speak by this current administration and its backwards, policies, in my opinions, right? But not to get too political, the 14th area is DEI and racial justice. Now, if you want to be a great leader, and a good leader always is someone who's striving to be great, you want to know that no matter how highly you think of your organization, chances are its members, including you, are biased in ways that harm both you and others. And decades of research has told us that systematic errors affect your judgments and choices and decisions at work, as well as the way you interact with others. And some of these biases are unconscious, including racial, gender, and income discrimination. Now, the consequences of such insidious biases can be quite costly to an organization, from leading it to hire or promote the wrong candidate, to investing in less innovative ideals just because of who proposed them, to crossing ethical boundaries. Now, to train your team to address racial bias, you want to consider organizations who have been leading by example. Now, many companies, have been put at risk and told that they need to dismantle their DEI practices. And they have, capitulated for fear of losing, contracts, losing revenue, losing clients. And so again, you can just see the importance, because if it wasn't important, right, then people would not be trying to attack it in the first place. Now, look for the companies who have stayed the course. Costco is one example, right? They have maintained that they're going to continue their practices because it's good business. And those people know, that their base of customers is largely people who have been, discriminated against. So when you think about, using examples, right? There are three main strengths for positive examples of good DEI practices. First, it shows that bias is real and a legitimate problem. Second, it'll highlight the negative effects of bias and who it harms. And the third, it focuses on effective strategies for reducing bias, like storytelling and perspective-taking exercises. Now, you may have your own opinions of all these topics, and that last one, like I said, right now in our society, DEI practices are being stripped and dismantled all across the country because, people want to hold on to things that they thought were great. Well, it wasn't always great for everybody. And so, again, if you're the kind of person who wants to be a good leader, you're going to make sure that you are focused on providing a level playing ground for everybody that you're leading and give them the opportunity to elevate equally and fairly. So, if you want to find out more on how you can continue to develop and master your skills as a leader, or to find ways to better improve your communication, or any of the areas that we've talked about in our podcast episodes, then I invite you to consider scheduling, a free 30-minute consultation with, one of our coaches. I'm here every day, available to people across the country, and I work with people all across North America. So a session with one of our experienced coaches could probably help you break through barriers, help you to build your skill sets, and continue your journey as you look to improve or increase the areas of your life that are important to you. So I hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the Jump In Podcast with me, your coach, John Thomas. And if you have, please do like, subscribe, share this with others. We can always use more fans to come online and listen. And you can find us on all the places you like to listen to your podcast and on YouTube. We're there. Now, if you have a question, or if you want to get in contact with us about topics, or you want to share on an episode of the Jump In Podcast, then send us a message via Instagram at ICoachUPlay at Instagram, or you can email me at ICoachUPlay1 at gmail.com. That's ICoachUPlay1 at gmail.com. So again, thanks for listening and joining me in this week's episode. And, we look forward to having you come back next week with another topic that we're going to share. And when you're out there, building and developing your skills as a leader, I want you to go and win all the games that you play. Thank you.